In 1923, Miljenko Mike Grgich was born in Desni, a little village in Croatia, the youngest of 11 children. Wine was always part of their lives. Mike still remembers that when he was just 2.5 years old, his mother weaned him to a mixture of half wine and half water. The wine not only added flavor, but also helped sanitize the water. His father was a highly respected winemaker. Mike's father taught that the secret to success is to work hard and make steady progress. He often told Mike, "Every day do your best, and every day learn something new. That way, after 365 days, you'll have made great progress, and you'll have become a far better person than you were at the start of the year." Mike still follows that advice today.
I use this opportunity to thank all of you to come here to the land. There is many of you that I haven't seen for a long time, and you refresh my memories that I'm full of the happiness and energy that I believe that so much energy I have received from you, I can go on for another 10 years.
On April 1st, 2013, Mike turned 90 years old. This is a summary of what he considers to be his greatest accomplishments in life. After learning the art of winemaking from his father, Mike's next step in his winemaking journey was at the University of Zagreb in 1949. He studied oenology and viticulture. There, he learned both the science and the craft of agriculture and oenology. At the same time, he knew that his future was not in Croatia. The communists were in charge of the country, and he wanted to go someplace where he could be free. Mike went to West Germany on a student fellowship and then eventually made his way to Canada, where he learned English. In August 1958, Mike came to the Napa Valley to work for Lee Stewart, the owner and winemaker at Souverain Cellars. Mike said Lee was a true artist, and he enjoyed learning more from him. His next job was with Brother Timothy at Christian Brothers, where he learned the importance of being fastidious when making wine. He believes his big break was when he was hired by Beaulieu Vineyard to work for Andrei Chelichev, where he learned more about the classic style of European winemaking. In 1962, Mike married Tatiana Chismich in St. Helena, California, and in 1965, his daughter Violet was born. Mike has said, "Violet is my greatest accomplishment in life. I'm proud she's followed in my footsteps and is able to continue my legacy at Grgich Hills Estate." In 1966, Mike went to work for Robert Mondavi at his new winery in Oakville as assistant winemaker. When Robert hired Mike, he said, "Mike, I will make of you a little Andrei Chelichev." In his first year making wines with Robert, Mike crafted an award-winning 1969 Cabernet Sauvignon. It was chosen as the best California Cabernet at a prestigious wine tasting organized by Robert Balzer of the Los Angeles Times. That victory was a validation of Robert Mondavi's wines and of Mike as a winemaker. Mike considers it to be the first miracle in his winemaking career. In 1972, two men from Los Angeles, Ernie Hahn and Jim Barrett, bought Chateau Montelena in Calistoga and asked Mike to join them as winemaker and as a limited partner. Montelena had fallen on hard times, so they had to rebuild the winemaking operation from the ground up. Becoming a winery owner, even a limited one, had been Mike's dream when he first came to America. The goal at Chateau Montelena was to make world-class wines. On May 27, 1975, the Chateau Montelena 1972 Chardonnay won first place, and the 1973 Chardonnay won second place in a blind tasting in San Diego, beating 3 of France's best Chardonnay wines. The next day, on May 28th, the same 5 wines were judged by a different group, and the 1973 Chardonnay won first, and the 1972 won third place. In early 1976, Stephen Spurrier, a wine expert from England who ran a fine wine shop in Paris, decided it would be fun to organize a blind tasting to coincide with America's bicentennial celebrations in 1976. For the tasting, he gathered together the best French judges, the finest French wines, and to salute America on its 200th anniversary, he added in a few wines from some upstart winemakers in California, including Chateau Montelena. Stephen hoped the tasting would bring favorable attention to his wine shop, but he didn't have any idea of the impact that his bicentennial tasting would have on the world of wine. In that famous blind tasting on May 24th, Mike's 1973 Chateau Montelena Chardonnay won over Burgundy's best white wines. Warren Winarski's 1973 Stag's Leap Cabernet Sauvignon won the red wine competition that same day. The following week, George Tabor's story in Time magazine announced the American triumph, and it sent shockwaves throughout the world of wine. The New York Times also published a story about the Paris tasting in June of 1976. Mike considers this to be his second greatest accomplishment in life. Land values in Napa were only $4,000 an acre in 1976 and are over $500,000 an acre today. There were only 24 wineries in Napa Valley in 1976, and today there are almost 500. California's victory also inspired other winemakers in different parts of the world. Breaking the myth of French superiority gave new hope and energy to winemakers in South Africa, Italy, Chile, Australia, New Zealand, and even in Mike's native Croatia. Wine is also now made in all 50 of the United States. The fame from winning the Paris tasting allowed Mike to turn his dream into a reality. He created a winery with his own name on the front door. After the Paris tasting, Austin Hills of the Hills Brothers Coffee family came to him with a proposal. Austin already owned some vineyards in the Napa Valley. Now he wanted a winemaker to shape those grapes into one of the best wines of the world. So Mike joined forces with Austin and his sister Mary Lee Strevel in a partnership, and on Independence Day in 1977 they broke ground to build the winery in Rutherford in the heart of Napa Valley. In 1980, Mike scored another huge victory in the Great Chicago Chardonnay Showdown. There, 221 Chardonnays were brought together from all over the world for a historic first, the largest blind tasting ever held of wines made from a single varietal. And Mike's Grgich Hills 1977 Chardonnay emerged in first place, earning it the title, the best Chardonnay in the world. Mike soon became affectionately known as the King of Chardonnay. In 1982, President Reagan was invited to France and took a case of Mike's 1979 Grgich Hills Chardonnay to the American Embassy for dinner with French President Mitterrand. In 1986, Mike hired his nephew, Ivo Heremas, to work at the winery. Today, Ivo is the Vice President of Production and Vineyards, carrying on Mike's natural style of winemaking, including organic farming of the 366 acres of estate-grown vineyards. In 1996, the Smithsonian Museum added a display for the American wines of 1976 Paris tasting, which displayed the 1973 Chateau Montelena Chardonnay and the 1973 Stag's Leap Cabernet Sauvignon. While Mike has long supported organizations in the Napa Valley, he has never forgotten his homeland. In 1990, after communism fell in Croatia, Mike asked the president of Croatia what he could do to help. The president told him they needed to make better wine. So in 1996, Mike opened Grgich Vina Winery in his homeland, producing Plavec Mali, a red wine, and Pošip, a white wine, with the goal of helping local winemakers improve their wines. In 2000, Mike was able to finally get a degree from the University of Zagreb. He was unable to complete his education in the 1940s because of his urgency to leave Croatia. This was one of Mike's proudest moments. On September 7, 2000, samples of an old vine from Croatia were shipped to Dr. Carol Meredith at the University of California, Davis, for DNA analysis. All 8 different DNA tests proved that it was the same as the Zinfandel found in California. It was further discovered that this old vine has many offspring in Croatia, one of which is Plavix molly. Mike is proud to have contributed to establishing that the origin of California Zinfandel is Croatia. In 2007, Mike was presented with the Global Citizen Award by the Roots of Peace Foundation for his efforts in raising awareness of landmines around the globe. He has contributed significantly to the demining of Croatia with his Mines to Vines campaign. In 2008, because of his contributions to the wine industry, Mike was inducted into the Vintners Hall of Fame. In November 2012, Mike Grgich was one of the California winemakers represented when the Smithsonian National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. opened its first major exhibition on food history. A major section of the exhibition focuses on the revolution in American wine in the second half of the 20th century, and the exhibition features the 1973 Chardonnay Mike handcrafted. The exhibit also includes the small cardboard suitcase he traveled with when he left Croatia, his winemaking textbooks, and his famous beret. Mike's fascinating life story and contributions to winemaking in the U.S. and his homeland drew the attention of Croatian radio television, who made Mike the subject of a documentary of his life entitled Kao Stara Loza, which in English means like the old vine. This documentary describes Mike's extraordinary life in detail, his achievements, and how his American dream became reality. First shown on national TV in Croatia, the film premiered in the United States at the 2012 Napa Valley Film Festival. This is a short snapshot of a man who has become an icon alongside other great men and women who have shaped the world of wine as we know it today. We invite you to learn more by going to the Grgich Hills Estate website at www.grgich.com.